One thing I can say for sure now is that life abroad is not usually the way we anticipated it to be, before we leave our own country. When you actually get the opportunity, after securing a job, and then it's looking more like you're going to have the opportunity to move to a new country, to further progress your career and all of that. A lot of times we are so wrapped up with the excitement of the new opportunities that lie ahead of us, this so-called new life that we are going to have in this new place, the new experiences, which a lot of times we have actually formed or created based on things that we have seen on the media, which a lot of times does not actually reflect the true situation of things. And a whole lot of times we get so carried away that we lose sense of the fact that there are some challenges that could actually come with this decision. And a lot of times, I think a lot of people do not still understand that to relocate out of your home country, especially a place where you have been for a very long time, to a new place is actually a major decision. Yes, it can be a life-changing decision. I'm sure you've probably heard some people, talk about the fact that they regret leaving a certain location and moving to another location. Maybe a lot of times it's the success stories we tend to hear a lot, but the sad stories, a lot of times we may not hear about them. We lose sight of the fact that there could be difficulties, challenges, and even life-altering, experiences that people could have, from making such a decision. So in this video today, I'm going to be sharing with you guys some of the things that I wish I knew before actually taking up a job as an IMG doctor here in the UK. Things I wish someone actually told me, or I had the opportunity to actually really understand or know. Because I feel like it's actually possible that if I knew these things, it could have affected my decision whether or not to actually come to the UK. So guys, let's just get right into it. Hello, my name is Blessing and I'm a doctor currently practicing here in the UK. And here on this channel, I talk all about medicine. I talk about my life as an immigrant doctor here in the UK. And so I share some of my experiences and some of the things I'm also learning while in the process. So feel free to actually become a part of the community. And so let's get right into the video. So I think the first thing I want to start with is the fact that sometimes people actually give us an overestimated picture of life abroad. So you see people who are flaunting certain lifestyles, and various things on the media, and sometimes that is all you have, to just get a glimpse of what life is in this new country. And a lot of times you actually see all of these nice things, and so it just gives you an idea that, oh, this is like the perfect society. It gives you that picture of, okay, this is really where I want to be. But a lot of times people do not actually come out to share their difficulties or their difficult experiences. And so a lot of people go into the process of relocating with a lot of great ideas, and so eventually when they get into the system and they see the flaws and they begin to have the challenges, then it becomes like, okay, what's going on here? So I think that was something for me that at the end of the day, it's not a perfect society. There are so many flaws. I think coming here, to the UK has actually made me appreciate Nigeria more, because there's so many things that, they are cheap. We get them so easily and we assume that, oh, it's so cheap. But then until you get to a place like this and then you realize that it's not so cheap. Things as basic as community, having, finding it like easy to relate with people. You live in a particular area and there are events that actually bring you together. And, it's actually possible in the UK that you can live in a place and you don't even know who your next door neighbor is. You get, because you've just not really had the opportunity to have to meet at any point or have to do anything together. Life is so isolated here, and so you have to intentionally try to actually create a community for yourself, and that is what a lot of Black people are doing now. So when you get to various locations, you see a lot of Nigerians, Ghanaians, different people trying to connect and build that sense of community, because that is something that is really missing from the British society. So growing up in a place like Nigeria, where community is like a normal thing, where it's just easy to form relationship with people, where people interact closely, it's actually been a very difficult change to my lifestyle, something I'm still trying to adjust myself to, really. So the next thing is, as a doctor, I actually feel like I know that, yes, I am paid for my job, and I get paid for the job or for the work I do. But back home in Nigeria, despite the fact that I also get paid for my job, patients, their relatives tend to appreciate you, they appreciate your efforts. There is a sense of gratitude that you can actually see, both from your patients, from their relatives, from your employers, from various people. But then, based on my experience, this is just my experience, it may not be everybody's experience. I don't think that happens a lot here. It's only on a few occasions that you actually see patients or their relative really appear grateful for your effort as a doctor. Sometimes you even go out of your way, to ensure that things are done, and at the end of the day, it just seems like, okay, you're just doing what you are being paid for. I'm not going to build my career on maybe people's appreciation or gratitude or anything like that. But I just feel like there's something it does to a person, when somebody is doing something and, gratitude keeps coming, once in a while, not even once in a while, if it's something that is often experienced, where you see these people that you're looking after, like show sense of gratitude, there's a way it actually encourages you and gives you this sense of you're definitely doing the right thing. But I feel like that is something that, I don't know, maybe for some persons they're experiencing it, but I know that is something that you don't get to experience a lot compared to how it was back home in Nigeria, where, even sometimes patients go out of their way, they bring gifts maybe for you or for the team that actually looked after their relative or even after themselves. You can actually see, or maybe it's just because of the general culture that we have back home in Nigeria, where people are generally grateful for things. Maybe that is, maybe it's just more like a cultural difference, I don't know. But I know that it can be very encouraging, while in the place of carrying out your job, you get that sense of, oh, you are valued. Oh, thank you for this. Oh, we appreciate the effort you're putting in. I'm being a doctor here in the UK, I'm being a doctor in Nigeria. Like for me, there are two different experiences. And I know that some days I've actually felt like, I actually miss being a doctor back home in Nigeria because it's really like different from here. Now, another thing that I wish someone had told me is, the issue around litigations, some things around that. As a doctor, especially as an IMG doctor, you actually go about carrying out your job with a lot of, sometimes, okay, this is my experience, with some level of anxiety, especially at the beginning when you come in. There's usually a whole lot of anxiety and it just never gets better, because the truth really is sometimes it's not even like real like litigations, maybe for something really serious. Sometimes it's just maybe complaints, coming in about you. Sometimes the truth really is, it's actually so difficult because sometimes it's confusing. You don't even know what you have done that should have warranted that complaint, because sometimes you just have some experiences and right in your face it looks like, oh my god, did you just put this on me right now? And you are practically like, you are in shock, you are in disbelief at what has just transpired, because everything just happened so fast and you're just wondering, how is this all on me? And here, it's the patient's word against yours. Like if the patient says this, that is the true picture of things until it has been properly investigated. Nobody is listening to what you have to say as a doctor at that time. No matter how much you deny it, that the necessary protocol is still going to be taken. And for some persons, some could even require that they have to stay off work. There was a situation where a doctor was dating somebody, and then this person, maybe they now had an issue in their relationship, and this person eventually said, oh, that this doctor raped me. And that doctor had to be stopped from working all through the period of investigating this. So this doctor had to stop working for about 3 years for this situation to be investigated. People actually live with so much fear, especially because the society has a high demand about you as a doctor. There's a kind of person you're supposed to be, there's a way you're supposed to behave, there's a way you're supposed to talk. It's just like, like as a doctor, you're supposed to be like this righteous person. That is just it. So it actually puts a lot of pressure, especially for a new person or for an IMG doctor who has not been in this society for a very long time. It can be very difficult for you to be able to process all of these things. Somebody had an experience where, they spoke to a patient about took consent for a procedure, and this patient agreed, and then only for the person to go, it was a very minor examination, for the person to go and get what the person needs for the examination and return. The person found the patient crying to another white doctor about this same examination that they gave consent for. And this IMG doctor was just looking confused, and he couldn't process it, that you were not crying just now. I took permission from you, you consented to it, and what exactly is going on right now? That you could have just told me you don't want the procedure. Why are you making it look like I'm forcing it on you? So sometimes you could actually find yourself in that situation, and sometimes people have really gotten into trouble for things like that. The other thing that I wish I knew is the fact that, racism is still a thing here. We usually hear racism, but sometimes you actually assume that, oh, it's not as serious as, people say it. But, as much as the NHS, there's a lot of talk against racism and a whole lot of that. But I still feel like generally, it still doesn't stop it from happening. I had an experience recently that really brought this home, to me. I was at the town center with my son. He's just a toddler, and we were in the store. We were trying to get stuff, and he was just running around. And one thing is, anytime he sees another young child, my child usually wants to reach out to them and just play with this little child. And he saw this little white girl and wanted to go and relate with this girl. And then the speed with which the mom pulled the child, you would think that my son had a knife in his hand and probably wanted to harm that child. And I felt bad because, of course, it's a child. I know it does not understand the significance, but it got to me because I'm like, so this is probably what it will probably still experience going through school, primary school, secondary school. Is sometimes going to have this kind of experiences because some people still choose to judge people by the color. It just doesn't always make sense to me how another human being will feel that they are superior to another person just because of color. If it was for something really reasonable, like intelligence, like mental ability, like academic prowess, maybe I will understand. But for skin color, something that you don't even determine, something that does not even require your efforts, something that you did not contribute anything to, and then you judge yourself to be superior. It just doesn't make sense. I've been in some situations, even as a doctor, that, it's not there overtly. You hardly get to have experiences where a patient will tell you, oh, some persons have actually come to talk about the fact that sometimes patient could call them, things like black monkey or something like that, say like really horrible words to them. But I've not had such experience. But I've had situations whereby I am speaking to this patient. This patient clearly understands what I'm saying, but then this patient tells me, oh, I don't understand what you are saying. Can you go and get me like a white nurse? Can you go and get me like an interpreter? And by that interpreter, they mean, can you go and get me a white nurse or a white doctor to come and say whatever it is you are saying? Another thing about life abroad as an IMG doctor is the fact that, a lot of people think that, oh, when you're working abroad, you are very rich, you are making a whole lot of money. I see some people make some nonsense, like some really annoying videos. I've seen like a nurse make a video saying I earn up to 1.2 million naira in a month because you basically converted your pounds, to naira, and you are telling people that you earn 1.2 million. But did you also tell these people that out of that 1.2 million, that sometimes your rent alone takes about 800,000? Your rent per month takes up to about 800,000. No. So you see people put a lot of things on there that actually mislead people. So here in the UK, yes, you work for anything, like you work to earn money and you pay heavily for everything. I think I usually say it like in a funny way that the only thing you don't pay for in the UK is the air you breathe. Every other thing, water, anything at all you can think of, you probably are paying for it, whether directly or indirectly. You work and you're excited that you're going to get paid at the end of the month, and then you get your money and then you realize that you haven't even sorted the expenses in the house, and bills alone are already taking more than half of your salary. You pay for your rent, you pay your council tax, you pay for even TV license. For you to actually watch TV, you have to pay for it. You have to be given a license, and that is not the money for the internet to be used to watch the TV or for the TV subscription you are going to do. No, that is different. So you actually pay a whole lot of money, and at the end of the day, you're just like, okay, what is left for me? A lot of things are taxed, and there are so many ways by which money is being, taken from you by the system. And at the end of the month, if you're not careful, you could actually go through a whole month and you would not have been able to save anything significant for yourself. So you actually see people live paycheck to paycheck. For families where there are like 2 health workers, sometimes it's usually manageable. By the time you do a few locum shifts, yes, you will be able to at least get enough for you guys to get by. But for families where they don't even have up to, it's actually very, very, very serious. Yes, like you pay heavily, to live in this country. Next thing I want to say is the fact that it's actually hard. Of course, I know that as an immigrant, you need some form of permit to actually work in any country. But then, coming to the UK and having to be at the mercies of employers for, we don't even know, before it used to be 5 years, you always have that hope of, okay, I'm just going to go through this for 5 years, and then after 5 years I'm going to get some level of freedom. But even with the current happenings in the country, we don't know what it's going to be now. So it actually kind of restricts your freedom. You don't have that freedom like what it is in your own country. You have to work, you have to keep looking for jobs that can offer you COS in order to ensure that you continue to stay in this country, because without a certificate of sponsorship, your stay in this country is going to be terminated within 2 months. Yes, so you're giving up to 2 months by the Home Office. So a lot of times you see people, that thing is actually a real struggle. Like it's a real struggle hustling for jobs that can offer COS. It can sometimes come with a lot of anxiety. And so these are some of the things that really, if I feel like if I knew this, and I guess a lot of other people, if they probably knew this about the UK, before they came, maybe they could have considered other options. They could have considered going to other places and a whole lot of that. But guys, what do you think about this? Does any of this resonate with you? Have you ever felt like, okay, I wish I knew this before coming to the UK, as an IMG professional here in the UK? So feel free to actually share your thoughts, and don't forget to like, to comment, to share, and also subscribe to this channel. Until I see you again, take care. Bye.